The National Judicial Council, the NJC, has approved the extension of the appointment of Justice Duncan Mohammed as Acting Chief Justice of Nigeria by 3 months. In a statement, the Director of Information at the NJC, Mr. Sojioye, explained that the decision was reached at the 88th meeting of the Council on Thursday, April 18, 2019. He added that the move followed a request by President Muhammadu Buhari for the extension, and the NJC had since forwarded its approval to him. The President appointed Justice Mohammed as acting CJN in January following the suspension of Justice Walter Onoye from the position after being accused of false declaration of assets. Although Justice Onoye has denied the allegations, he was found guilty on Thursday by the Code of Conduct Tribunal and consequently barred from holding public office for 10 years. He is also to forfeit monies in 5 of his accounts to the government. Meanwhile, Justice Onoye has appealed the judgment of the CCT and has since served a notice of retirement to President Buhari. In the meantime, the conviction of Justice Walter Onoye is a vindication of the rule of law, which shows that nobody is above the law. This is the view of a senior advocate of Nigeria, Yemi Kande-Johnson. In an interview with our judiciary correspondent, Shola Shoele, Mr. Kande-Johnson says that the judgment should send a strong message to all judges and indeed all public officers that acts of corruption will be scrutinized.
Clear that from Onogen's case that the executive has declaration of assets of all judges. It's also clear with modern technology and the entire regime for controlling money laundering and financing of terrorism that the government has remarkable resources to verify the declarations of every public servant, not just judges. We speak in particular about judges because that is the occasion for this discussion. But they know, therefore, which judge has earned 10 million naira a year and has 200 million in his accounts. Now, it's a classical red flag. It's a classical point at which the onus of proof shifts to the individual. If you have 10 million legitimate earnings, and you can't explain where the 190 million came, there is a presumption, difficult to rebut, but it may well be rebutted, of corruption and abuse of office. I think that this is an opportunity for judges who are in that situation to consider whether they want to do other work. They may want at this stage to consider whether they can remain in office with this sort of burden hanging above them. But it's a remarkable thing. Difficult, as I said, a personal tragedy for the individual. But when the government goes after the Chief Justice of Nigeria, the most senior judge in the country, it must be a signal to all judges across the board that acts of corruption, acts of illegality will not escape scrutiny. And if those acts are discovered in scrutiny, they ought to suffer the possible consequences.
The federal government is set to fully embrace the e-governance system in running the affairs of Nigeria. That's according to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustapha. Mr. Mustapha, who was speaking after a tour of the government-owned Galaxy Backbone, adds that it is the way forward for government to deliver on its mandate. He disclosed that civil servants are already undergoing training to enhance the plan to move fully to e-governance system. Already, the project has been to about 11 states and the Federal Capital Territory, with plans to commence the second phase to cover the entire country. Daily, monthly, and if you will, yearly, chartered flights return Nigerian migrants from Libya who have voluntarily accepted to be brought back to the country. In Edo State, the government has a program aimed at providing these returnees with skills and business opportunities that will help their rehabilitation process. Our next report takes a look at how some of these returnees are faring and how well the government's intervention is also helping them out.
On November 7, 2017, the Edo State Government's Anti-Human Trafficking Task Force welcomed the first batch of Edo indigents who voluntarily returned to Nigeria from Libya after failed attempts to get to Europe through illegal and unconventional means. There are words of encouragement from the state government. Government tells the returnees that the program is already in place that will enable them to settle down and discard thoughts of embarking on such hazardous journeys. About 2 years after the first arrival of these voluntary returnees, we keep track of some of those who stayed back and how the social program has impacted on their lives. 34-year-old Blessing Usayende, a mother of 3, leads us to her residence, her father's home, where she and her kids are sheltered.
So this is the area we stay. That's the butter factory.
A litany of woes. Blessing was one of the beneficiaries of the Edo State government's agricultural training program for returnees in December 2017.
They are still begging the governor that he should please and still reconsider his promise to us. You understand? And again, because most of us now, they are going back. There's other do or die affair. A lot of them that has the opportunity to go back, they've reached their successful. Some are still on their way to the Libya of a thing.
49-year-old Daniel Osaro got to Libya earlier than Blessing. He got there as far back as 1994. He says that the driving force is the same, search for greener pastures. He was also among the first batch of returnees trained and promised assistance by the government.
This is my certificate, certificated by this equipment governor. When he gave us this certificate, he promised to empower us that he trained. The first batch, we were 150 in members.
This group of young men and women are returnees who were part of the earliest batch that arrived from Libya to Edo. They are meeting here to encourage one another and also explore ways of survival.
If we can be empowered and we talk to other returnees that is coming or the one that want to go, they will listen to us because we know in and out inside Libya.
There are, however, words of encouragement from the government.
The list we are having in our hands, which we have already cleaned up, we're going to have these people allocated to different spaces they're going to participate. All the commodities that they require are going to be put there in terms of land clearing, in terms of seed production. Are you get what I'm saying now? In terms of harrowing, in terms of plowing, all that will be done. All they need to do is to hand over to them and say, okay, you start taking care of this place. The arrangement is this, is that once they participate in that space, the profit from that project is their own.
The game plan of government is simple. That is to ensure that the returnees are gainfully employed and would not be tempted to embark on that journey riddled with unbelievable hardship and even death.
The state government has drawn a very good comprehensive integration plan for return migrants in Edo State. That first we take it from the angle of profiling, where we get to meet with them, know their plights, know what they were doing before they left Nigeria, and now that they are back, what they want to do with their life, to see how government can come in. Because the governor wants to see Edo people traveling out of aspiration, not out of desperation.
Government is also hoping that those who have been provided for will dig in and make the best out of the opportunities so provided.
And no fewer than 300 internally displaced persons in the nation's Federal Capital Territory have received agricultural inputs to empower them and improve their livelihoods. The Spanish ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Marcelino Carbanos, says that the intervention became imperative as over 90% of internally displaced persons in Nigeria are farmers. Mr. Carbanos explains that the Spanish government is supporting the nation's agricultural sector to improve the livelihood and income for farmers in Nigeria and ECOWAS.
34-year-old Ibrahim Amadou is a father of 5 and a farmer. The insecurity in Goza, Borno State sent him to the Federal Capital Territory as an internally displaced person since 2013. Here at the Durumi camp, he fends for his family through farming. There are, however, challenges he wants the government to help address.
Goza lakal gama Borno Goza lakal gama. To gaskiya abubuwan da nake samu a can yafi nan saboda yanayin kasancen yafi nan karfi. To amma nan kin ga muna doki gona haya ne, amma gidacen ba ma doka gona haya, kuma muna samun gona babba, amma nan each 1 hectare sai mun bada 30,000 naira. To kin ga akwai different noman gida da kuma nan wurin. To gaskiya muna neman goyon bayan gwamnati kaman magani na kashe ciyawa da maganin fesa ma wake kwari da kuma iri don saboda majority mutanen mu suna noma. Akasarin mu mutanen Borno 75% noma ne aikin mu, mun dogara da shi.
These challenges are not peculiar to him alone. Ijai Apagu, who is an indigene of Chibok in Borno State, is facing same.
We are farming groundnuts, corn, and guinea corn and beans. That's what we are farming here. And all these things, they need a fertilizer to do it. And the good seed, we didn't have it, apart of groundnuts and the beans. But the other seed, we don't have a good seed to plant it.
It is really a great honor.
The Spanish Embassy and the National Association of Nigerian Traders have waded into the matter in providing assistance for them for the 2019 farming season.
In 2014, Spain signed a memorandum of understanding to support the implementation of the ECOWAP, and specifically so that through the Regional Agency for Food and Agriculture. And we committed 5 million euros to support innovative initiatives to improve food security and the safety networks for the most vulnerable population.
The task of supporting and comforting these IDPs is increasingly becoming huge and demanding, particularly given that the IDPs cannot be dependent on handouts and remaining a burden to the society forever. And for this reason, organizations must rise up to the challenge of supporting and complementing government's efforts by helping the IDPs to be mentally awake, to overcome past emotions, and assume an appreciable source of sustainable livelihoods.
The beneficiaries received improved seedlings, fertilizers, and farm tools. Hopefully, this will help empower them as well as improve their livelihood.
You're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, reaching you live from Lagos. Let's quickly shift our gears now, shall we, to business news with Melinda Kilami.
Many thanks, Jimba. Welcome to Business News. The Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry has asked President Muhammadu Buhari to speed up assent to the Companies and Allied Matters Bill 2018 to replace the Companies and Allied Matters Act 1990. In a statement, the LCCI says this will enhance the transformation of micro, small and medium enterprises in the country and enable them contribute to the realization of the objectives of the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. According to the LCCI, when signed into law, the CAM 2018 bill will reduce the cost of doing business, especially for small businesses, promote economic inclusion, and encourage the informal sector players to move to the formal sector. The third trading week of April ends in positive territory, up by 1.78% in 3 out of the 4 trading sessions as financial markets closed on Friday to observe the Easter break. All other indices finished higher, save for the oil and gas index, which dipped by 2.12% after profit-taking pulled back the prices of key components in that sector. The price chart recorded 33 equities, gainers and losers apiece, while the share price of 101 equities remained within the week. Meanwhile, a total turnover of 988.69 million shares worth 11.43 billion naira changed hands in 13,596 deals, while the shares of Union Bank, Access and GT are the most actively traded stocks for the week. Now let's check out what's happening in the bond market. It's also sustained the bullish sentiments this week as market players chose the attractive yields at the short and mid segments of the curve. As a result, average yield fell by 6 basis points to close at 14.08%. Yields on the February 2020 and March 2027 bonds contracted as buy segment sentiment was concentrated at the short and mid segments, while the sell-off of the July 2034 bond led to yield expansion at the long end of the curve. However, the Debt Management Office plans to offer 100 billion naira worth of the federal government bonds to investors at its auction on April the 24th, comprising 40 billion naira reopenings of the April 2023 paper, 40 billion naira new issue of the April 2029 and 20 billion of the April 2049 bonds. And that's business news. It's back to you, Gimba.
Brilliant. Many thanks indeed, Melinda. Still ahead on the news at 10. The Golden Eaglets of Nigeria forced Uganda to a draw in their final group match to keep their unbeaten run at the CAF Under-17 African Cup of Nations. That's the sports news. Stay with us.